So I want to share with you something, a thought I had today, and I want to get your reaction on this. So one of my clients is they're not doing a full redesign right now, but they're doing like a product page redesign through an agency. One of the things that I think happens in e-commerce, very you and I have seen this movie play a lot, which is that it's almost like there's like this unwritten rule that says every 5 years you must redesign your website. And so, like clockwork, 5 years come along and the CEO says, I'm bored of my website, which by the way is the worst reason to redesign. And then a redesign happens. So this client is going through that process. They're doing it, they're trying to be scientific about it by saying, let's just do the product page first and then we'll do the category page, but it's the same kind of idea. But the company that they're using for the redesign has so what they did was they talked to the client and they said, tell us what problems you have on the product page. And the client is giving anecdotal information like, oh, above the fold stuff, like the color configurator is too complicated. We need to give it more real estate above the fold stuff, below the fold stuff. And they came back with three mockups, typical stuff. Three mockups. The client said, oh, I like this two-column design. And then they said, okay, let's come up with more designs around this, blah, blah, blah. So I thought of a killer app, a killer idea for design agencies that will have two benefits. Number one, it'll dramatically improve the success rate of their redesigns. And number two, it'll make it super easy for them to sell their concept to the client. Because I noticed when the agency was showing the concept, they were paying a lot of attention to the client's reaction to it. And they were trying to basically, if the client didn't like it, then they were like, trying to adjust to what the client wanted, which is the
They
worst thing
were
to do.
even thinking about the user. They were thinking about the CEO, right?
Correct, correct. And so here's my idea. It's a very simple idea. And I've never seen it. Maybe Lorenzo, it already exists. But if I was doing a redesign, the first thing I would do is before I do a redesign, I would place trackers on their entire funnel at all strategic locations to study to see the discovery rate of content right across the funnel. So let's say if I'm doing a product page redesign, I would put trackers on the image gallery, and I would do this as an agency, even if the client doesn't have it. Trackers in the image gallery. I would put scroll depth trackers to see how deep people are scrolling. I would put pagination on the reviews to kind of see how many people are going through reviews, and I would let it collect data for like a week, maybe, or 2 weeks, and then based on that, I would actually come up with design concepts. Now, again, maybe this is what agencies already do. I just haven't experienced it, but I can see two massive benefits with this. The first, and this is the benefit, is from both the clients and the agency end, but I'll talk about it from the agency's perspective. The first benefit is that um, you now actually have real data, not anecdotal data, on how people are discovering and consuming content, and that really does shape your thinking of, because, like you said, we should not be doing redesigns to satisfy the client. We should be doing redesigns to satisfy consumers because consumers have credit cards. But the other benefit is that it gives you tons of arsenal to give clients pushback. If the client says, no, 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 I don't like this design, you can say, well, here's the data that we have, and it's difficult for clients to actually uh, critique once the data says something. But I also think this is very useful from the client's perspective, because it reduces the risk. I mean, to me, if I think about risk as a spectrum for e-commerce, a redesign is the more, outside of starting a new e-commerce business, I think a redesign is the most risky thing that businesses do. And it's funny because things that are less risky, like the kind of stuff that you and I do, we A/B test. But things that are more risky, we don't really A/B test. I don't know if there's a way to A/B test a redesign. Maybe there is, but I can imagine it being fairly complicated. So
Yeah.
anyway, I just had this thought this morning about this. This it kind of goes back to trackers that you and I, like whenever we study product pages, we always start off by saying, okay, we need a bunch of trackers so we can understand how people are consuming it. I can see that being a useful tool for redesigns as well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, this is actually when I was a Spiro, this was one of the services that they were offering.
Okay.
It was called research focused redesign. So instead of saying, hey, here's what I think because I'm a cool designer, I have, look at my portfolio on the Dribble or whatever platform. I'm cool. I have a lot of creativity. Here's what I think your website is going to look like, right? Instead of having that sort of like selling angle. The selling angle was, well, let me first understand from a quantitative perspective. So from a, as you said, like tracking and Google Analytics perspective, but also we're doing qualitative stuff. So we were like running, surveys. We were doing user testing. We were doing exit polls to understand exactly what you're talking about. So not just like the content consumption, but also like the motivations, the friction points, the objections that people had. And then based on that, we would create wireframes based on all these insights. So it's kind of like research with a goal of experimentation, right? But in this case, no, we want to, like, the client wanting to go bold or maybe didn't have the traffic. So instead of having full redesign, which always ends up, being a bad choice, this is more like something in the middle where it's data driven because it's based on quantitative and qualitative data. And you structure the page, the layout, the copy, the design based on the stuff that you discovered rather than because of one genius, design inspiration of one designer.
Well, just to give context here, I think Spiro is like at the pinnacle of sophistication for agencies. So I don't know if I should use Spiro as an example of what is happening in the industry. Um, I think my hope is that this video, that e-commerce CEOs that are thinking about doing a redesign probably go to YouTube and do a search for this and they discover this video. I think this is what the business owner should demand of the agency and say, hey, you want to sell me on a redesign? Let's first have the trackers do all of that work and then come back and make a business case for it. Because I think redesign should always be done based on a business case and not based on this is a cool design or stuff like that.
The question I would have is, if the CEO is truly data driven, they probably wouldn't want to do a redesign. So
Right.
that's kind of like conundrum I'm seeing. Like, okay, I want to do a redesign, but then if I know that these redesigns are not good because I'm data driven, I'm not gonna want to
That's
have a
true.
redesign. So I think it's a selling point. This could be a great selling point and a differentiation point as a
Yep.
design agency to pitch your clients and your prospects versus 100 other design agencies out there that A, don't do it, B, don't have the talent to do it, 3, they don't know how to do it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Again, thank you for listening in, guys. We'll be back with another random topic around e-commerce. Thank you for sharing, participating in our journey. Take care. Bye.
Ciao.